Okay, my point is, I think I've been told by people older than me who say things like, "I still don't know what I'm doing," but then on the outside it looks like they do.
100%.
So I think it's always just a matter of what you're actually doing versus your own kind of what you feel like you should be doing. So obviously when you're like in your 40s, you could be doing something that's amazing, but you'll still be thinking to yourself, I could be doing more.
Yeah.
But then to someone our age, it could be like, you're doing so much.
You're doing so much, 100%.
Like you're doing everything you should be able to do. That's amazing. But so I feel like for some people, it may never be the case that you do genuinely feel like you're doing enough. But as long as you're doing things that you're comfortable with, that's fine, because on the outside it looks like maybe you are doing what you need to be doing.
100%.
So it's just all about perspective.
100%. Three, two, one. Hello. Welcome. I like that. Welcome to another episode of the Jeoffrey Sarpong podcast. Today I'm here with Jasmine. Jasmine, how are you?
I am great, thank you very much.
I'm so sorry, Jasmine. I know we had two mics and now I have to do this again. I thought we were moving forward, but now we're moving back. It's okay. It's one of those, again, I keep saying it, but learning experiences.
Yeah.
It's one of those learning experiences. You're good? How you been? How's your day been?
It's been very interesting. Just work and more work. But now we're here in the park, which is really nice. I feel very relaxed right now, which is very good.
It's very good, and I agree. That's actually very good because, I mean, it's decently cold. I'm wearing a jacket. Jasmine doesn't seem to get cold. It's fine. It's fine. Jasmine doesn't get cold, but I get cold, so I'm wearing a jacket today. But we're here to talk about. I know that a couple of days ago you messaged me. You said you had a good topic conversation to discuss, and you wanted to talk about the realm of toxic productivity. So this is the second time we're starting this episode again because I just got flustered before just mumbling my words. But yeah, I know I can't even look at you. I have to look at the camera. But yeah, today we're here. I'm here with Jasmine. Jasmine, how are you?
I'm great, thank you very much. How are you?
It's funny you asked this question 2 seconds ago and I'm asking like I don't know. That's what we do for YouTube, the perils of YouTube. I am good, thank you too. I'm getting through the day. It's a cold day, but we're out here racing against the natural light. But I feel like we can do it. Today we're here to talk about toxic productivity. And when you mentioned that you wanted to have this conversation, 2 things came to mind. It's something I always think about. I think on this channel, but also just in my life, I'm very much like do hard work, do the thing. But I never talk about the opposite side of that, which is the kind of like the things that come as a product of us being productive. Look at that word. The results of us being productive and like how that affects our life and how that kind of expands out. So just quickly talk to me about why you wanted to talk about this topic. How do you relate to this topic? And why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, so I texted this idea to you at like 4 a.m. or something. I was awake all night, which is actually kind of ironic because the topic is about productivity and being toxic about it.
Yeah.
And I was up all night because I could not sleep and because I was thinking too much.
You're being toxically productive.
Exactly. I was being toxically productive, and I was like, wait, this is a good podcast idea. Being self-aware, which is nice.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, why were you up at 4 a.m. Thinking about why you think it's a good idea?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, I was thinking about things to do with my book ideas, work, obviously, because just, trying to progress, trying to get better, trying to get good, basically. And I was just up all night kind of, when you have so many thoughts, that is sort of like too many thoughts in one place, and it's kind of like the Three Stooges kind of thing, where you're trying to get all ideas through a doorway and they won't fit, so you just kind of sat there like, okay, prioritize. What's the first thought I need to think about? But then your brain's like, everything is important. Everything is prioritized. So, and I was just thinking, wait, that's kind of toxic. If you're thinking that everything is a priority, you're never going to get anything done, are you?
Exactly.
Because you're only one person. And I was like, okay, so toxic productivity you think about, well, the main thing is being self-aware about your own productivity. And I think I am, but it was more like just the fact of when you're trying to do too much to the point where you do nothing, and then there's a whole vicious cycle of like doing nothing and then doing everything the next day and then doing nothing again and then feeling bad about yourself. It's kind of like, it's just, you make yourself, it's like a feel bad cycle, you know?
100%. I think like when you mentioned that to me, I think I related to that on the level, because I feel like it's weird because there's definitely a push, you know, the hustle culture, there's a push towards toxic productivity, and the people I kind of follow, you know, Alex Hormozy, these kind of people who are like, you know, work hard, don't think about the negatives, just keep going, and I relate to that on some level. But I also think, you know, I wrote down, it's like I think there are two wolves inside of me. There's the competitive action, must do this, and I like the pressure, I like the stress, but it's like I'm a creative and I like being able to recognize the beautiful moments and the little moments in life, and like not being able to do that because I'm always just focused on the next thing, you know, being perfect and just doing the next thing. That's also something that's, you know, like you said, toxic, you know. And I think especially where that comes out for me is when I'm trying to write something. I'm trying to write something, I'm trying to be like, okay, I gotta go deep into the night, you know, I gotta be out there burning the candlelight, you know, just focused on the next work. Like, and I think that at some point it becomes like redundant, because like, what are you doing? Like, are you even producing what you're producing? Does that even like reflect how you really are? Like, maybe you should be in a better mental space, you know. And I think when we chase perfection, or we chase like really good art, I think that's something that where we get that lost in. So I was gonna ask, what do you think is the link between toxic productivity and also like chasing perfection, and how do you think that manifests for creatives especially?
I was just thinking whilst you were talking about, of course, hustle culture and things like that. I think the main difference that I see within myself and others, like with my family and like friends and stuff, is that with toxic productivity, it's usually the fact that you end up being so. Sorry, the train.
I know. I can hear the train.
It's right there.
Very much. I'm just trying to focus.
Let's just pretend it's not there, guys.
Yeah, it's fine. It's part of the scenery. See, look at the art I bring to you.
Exactly.
I make the trains come on purpose so they can add more. Anyway, go on.
We're in London, baby. Okay, so hustle culture, I feel like the big difference between beneficial productivity and toxic productivity is toxic one would be you are trying so hard to be something you're not, to the point where you have no energy to even start your plans, you know. Like, you'll be putting yourself down saying, I need to go gym, I need to do this because I'm this, I'm that, and then when you have the next day and that's when you start starting your plans, you have no energy to do it.
So it's when you want to do something so much, but you put so much pressure on yourself that you don't actually do the thing, so it becomes like, what's the point of putting that much pressure on yourself? Exactly.
It's all ideas. It's, you know, all bark, no bite. You have no energy to do things because all you're doing, all the energy you're putting into yourself is just to put yourself down because you're not doing those things. So that, compared to actual beneficial productivity, is when you know your own limits, you know your capacity.
But you push yourself to be able to do it.
You push yourself to push your capacity in a healthy way, because you're self-aware about how much you can handle, which takes a lot of time because you have to get to know yourself, you know. But I feel like, you know, when you get to that point, it's sort of you're slowly allowing yourself to tick boxes off, like every couple of months or so, and then you're able to say, this time next year I can do this. You know, you don't have to do it tomorrow. You can do it next year. You can do it when you're 25 years old or 30 or 60. You know, but that's the difference between that and toxic, because toxic productivity is saying that you should be there right now. You should be able to do all these things right now, otherwise you're this, otherwise you're that.
Yes.
You know?
And I think to go off that too, I think like, yeah, when you mention it, I think like often enough the way I will have the conversation with myself about the stuff that I need to do is the positive productivity, where it's like, I understand I got to do this by this time because I set my own standards and I set my own schedule, and I know the capacity of the things I can do. You know, I can do so much more always. I can always push myself, and that's good. You know, and I think there's definitely an intersection between when I put so much pressure on myself that I almost feel burnt out, and then I start not doing the stuff that I'm doing to the highest quality. And then also like feeling like, because I think I've passed that stage where like the pressure on myself makes me not act, because like I can recognize that instant. I'm like, okay, cool, you're procrastinating. Why are you procrastinating? Then I have to remove myself from the stuff that I'm doing, and then focus just on that few things that I can do, and I think that's good. But also like the part of it where it's like I'm feeling burnt out, that's when it's not good. How do you go through the experiences where you feel like if you rest, or like if you're writing something and you feel like if you just go to sleep now, if you take a break, it's not good for you? Do you relate to that? Do you relate to the fact that like taking a break, not saying it's not good for you, but do you relate to that kind of conversation that you have in your mind where it's like, if I take a break, it's bad? And actually, like, why do we fear that kind of conversation, I think, with ourselves?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, actually, because this is kind of related, but when you don't sleep for a whole night, you don't consider it to be tomorrow, do you?
Yeah.
You're still like, it's still today.
It's still today, yeah.
Because you didn't sleep, you didn't wake up to the next day, so it's like, oh, it's still today. You're just having a 48-hour day.
Yes. It's still going.
So related to that, I think when I sleep, my whole day is starting again. So everything I didn't finish that yesterday is a failure. So I have to either finish it again today, which would then like stop me from finishing my list for tomorrow. And I feel like it's sort of like I have I love lists. I love lists so much. I have lists for everything. I have to make sure I have a list for everything, otherwise I'll forget. I have a list for people's birthdays. I have a list for even today, about the podcast. For work, I have a list. So when I don't finish a list for one day, I have to finish it off tomorrow, which would then add to tomorrow's list.
So your list just keeps growing exponentially. It's like
exactly. It's like I always have a day where I don't finish my list, and I'm like, well, if I sleep now, I won't finish my list
tomorrow.
And then I have to do more things tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to be able to wake up tomorrow because I'll be like, I don't want to do my whole list today because it's so much to do.
Does that affect your creativity in any form? Like,
definitely.
How so? How?
Yeah, because when you're writing a draft for like a book or something like that, you have obviously a deadline, and like for yourself, obviously you have to have deadlines, small deadlines, to keep yourself motivated. So when you miss a deadline because of all this toxic productivity, your entire book like just falls into the future, and it just keeps getting further and further out of your grasp. So it makes you feel like you're not doing enough, because it's like you keep having to shift things of your schedule, So it's just...
How do you handle that then? How do you not make yourself feel like, okay, I'm not going to do it, it's too long? How do you still motivate yourself to still? Do you create another list of another deadline, and then now you're creating deadlines and lists for lists and deadlines?
I think I end up like doing days where I'm burnt out, and I'll end up going into this weird like self-obsessed kind of like CBT in my head type of thing. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotta have appendixes and indexes and I'm sorry, go on.
Exactly. DSM-5, baby.
When you have CBTs in your head, yes.
When you're trying to analyze yourself, and like you go to the point where your entire schedule is messed up, so you're just like, well, screw it for today because I have other things to do, and you're just like, why do I do these things to myself? Why do I do this? And then my brain's like, well, A, B, C. This is all of the things. This is all of your reasons why. And then I'll allow myself to do that. I'll allow myself to kind of, I don't know, meditate. Like, I guess you're meditating on
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Letting your thoughts be like wild, and like letting everything you've been holding back forth. It may be a kind of emotional day for me as well, because sometimes I'll be like blocking things out. Maybe that's another creative block that might have been slowing me down and making me shift schedules. So I'll allow it to kind of catch up on me. So it will be like, it's usually a day where I'm just like, I'm just going to eat ice cream. I'm just going to be in my bed and just read a book and cry. Watch Pride and Prejudice again. Yeah.
For the 100th time.
For the 100th time.
Yeah.
Do my comfort things. Feel bad for myself. And then the next day I'll be like, okay, start from fresh. What's my first thing to do today? and then it's like a repeat of that.
Okay, fair enough. I think just to touch on that too, I kind of I relate somewhat to that too, especially when it comes to like missing days of like, because I usually go, okay, I'm gonna work out these every day, I'm gonna go on runs these days, and so when I miss it, and especially because these are you've put this on yourself, right? There's no one's telling you to do this. You're just doing this because you think it's better for you. And you go, okay, I'm going to do this on this day. I'm going to write this thing, publish on that day. When you don't do it, you have a double like negative where you feel shitty about not even doing it. But even there's no reason to, right? Because you're the one who put this on yourself. And I understand, I understand hard work. I understand the fact that we do have to be conscious of the fact that we don't have all the time in the world. You know, we do have to kind of really like take our time back and be able to like action the stuff we want to action. But also, like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that the negative side of creativity, the negative side of, we call it toxic productivity, but also I think that stems from the negative ties, the negative side of ambition, the negative sides of like trying to achieve something, like which no one talks about, you know. And I think that's what we should really delve into. So like, first off, let's just start from the beginning about creativity and about that. We will definitely try to pivot into toxic positivity in the end, but I do want to start from top to bottom. When you talk about creativity, right, what are some of the aspects that you struggle with to be like as a creative, like in terms of producing work, in terms of, you know, obviously you are your own source of your own music production, as you know what I mean, but also like how do you basically, what I'm asking, how do you not get into the habit of you almost like extracting stuff out of yourself like a worker, but it's a creative process, you know? How do you not lose yourself in that creative process?
Well, I mean, I think when it comes to creativity, it's sort of a lot of it does come from our own personal like experiences. Like I want to say traumas. I don't want to be too dramatic.
Jesus Christ.
I don't want to be too dramatic.
All
but
roads leads back to trauma.
It does. I don't know. I do feel like everyone has some sort of deep like secret inside them that they just want to like, you know, secretively hide in their little like,
especially creators. Yeah.
Exactly, like, and I feel like other creatives do like see that in other people's work because we know what to look for because we have it in ourselves too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I feel like when it comes to creativity and making things, whether it be like artwork, painting, poetry, books, music, whatever, it's sort of like you're having to put yourself into this emotional state where your emotions are on your surface. You're having to also be self-aware about it enough to actually make it into something else that isn't too like, my life is this, my life is that, this happened to me.
It has to be creative. You have to be,
you have to use colour. Exactly. Like it will just bum people out, so you have to make it fun, you know.
Medicine of the candy or whatever the fuck.
Exactly. You have to make it into a poetry book and that'll move people. You have to translate it into like painting, like use colour theory, use blue when you're sad or use yellow when you're happy, you know. But it's like, I don't know, the train's there again.
I can hear you, so it's fine, you can go.
Okay, good.
The train cannot stop us. Even the trains cannot stop us. But anyway, so you're mentioning about like, okay, it's like the negative aspects of creativity, as like we try to take something deep from within and then try to express that. How does it feel like you're kind of like not whoring yourself up, but you're like, you know what I mean, taking your stuff that's inside of you, and then, because I feel that's terrible turn of phrase, but you know what I mean. I
know what you mean, like selling yourself out.
Easier words than whoring yourself out. Yes. But it's selling yourself out to yourself.
We're all just creative whores in the end, aren't we?
We don't even get paid. We're creative prostitutes who don't get paid.
That's so sad. Oh my god.
At least whores get paid. Oh god. Okay. Yes. How do we not let that? How do we not lose ourselves in that? Is what I'm basically asking, and find a way to still enjoy the process.
A lot of us, therapy is one way, because you know we need to like find a way to balance our emotions and also be able to create things. Because if you're going to be emotional all the time, you can't do anything.
Yes.
Like you just. Some days you just have to turn it off, you know.
I see, exactly.
I think the point I was trying to make before is that I kind of went on a tangent. I was trying to say that when you are a creative and your emotions are on your surface, sometimes the bad things like your low self-esteem, low self-image and things like that can get in the way of it, and cause the toxic productivity. It can be a thing where you stop yourself from going to an audition because you have low self-esteem, or like you have a low self-identity, and you don't know what to write because you're thinking to yourself, I'm an imposter. I don't deserve this kind of thing. Like, who do I think I am trying to write things that people might like no one wants to read my stuff, and that just creates a cycle.
Okay, and we're back. Okay, so basically there's light now. I didn't realize how dark he had gotten, both conversationally and and physically, but okay, I think no, this is what we do. We're literally talking about the dark aspects of creativity, so this is exactly what it is. But I think you're 100% right. Just to touch on what you said, just to kind of button that point up and see how it relates to my own experience. I think
Your entire life flashes
I literally like my creative but no, I definitely agree with what you said. I feel like, yeah, you're right. There's an aspect of like when you talk about us drawing on the negative aspects of ourselves, and I think even how it turns into like toxic productivity, some people could be running away from their problems. I think it's easy for creatives, especially because we're all like somewhat on the spectrum. I think some creatives are definitely on the spectrum in terms of being able to just see the experiences of the world. But sometimes I have to like tone down my input because I'm like, there's too much coming at me. So like, some people will try to run away from that because it's too much, instead of accepting that's still how the world is and then adapting. I think some creators fall into the trap of, especially for me, like production, because it's like the more I produce, the more I can just let it out, and then I can go into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. We never have time to really sit down and enjoy the things that we like. And I think I wanted to touch on this, I think I mentioned it earlier about chasing perfectionism, right? Especially as a painter, right? When you're painting something or you're creating something or even a poem or a story, how hard is it to not fall into the trap of trying to do it because you want it to be perfect, trying to get like, you know what I mean, like you want to just keep going until it's perfect and then you can stop. How hard is it? Because I think that's also an aspect of toxic productivity. How hard is it to achieve perfection as a creative, do you think?
I think for starters, if you're going from top to bottom, perfection is definitely subjective, way definitely, because like someone's perfection could be way different to someone else's, and I think we all hold ourselves to our own standards of perfection, which can be way too high sometimes.
But here's the question, sorry, I know you got a point.
Yeah.
Do we still judge quality though? Even if it's not perfection, we can still judge. Quality is not subjective, is it? That's what I'm saying. Like, we know Van Gogh is a fucking crazy artist. Even though they thought he wasn't, we know he is.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how the struggle of that is, like how even though it's subjective, it's still kind of not.
Yeah, I think, okay, when it comes to artwork, quality, I believe, is subjective as well.
Ooh, okay, go on.
Because, okay, when it comes to t-shirts and clothing and things, quality is objective, because if you can tear a t-shirt in half, that's not quality, is it? But when it comes to artwork, quality is subjective, because sometimes you have abstract artists who do abstract work, and people would just say, oh, it's just splashes of paint, I could do that. My 3-year-old daughter could do that, and people would just say that. And then there are people like Van Gogh, like you said, intricate work, expressionist, it's all very quality, very quality English. I think that that's why I think quality is subjective, because you go through all these different artists who use different mediums. Even people who will do performance art, which is like you'll burn a piece of paper and that's art, but you can't.
I don't think that's art.
It's art is art is in the eye of the beholder.
Then okay, let's talk about that for a second. Let's get a little sidetrack. Let's talk about that for a second. Then I got a question on that. Then,
okay.
If art is in the eye of the beholder, right? Because things have to be bound in order for us to be able to kind of describe it, right? If we're saying art is in the eye of the beholder, then shitting on the floor is art. Because you can retrospectively say it's art. I know, I've seen that. That guy was like, that's not art. You can't just. My argument for that, right? I think art has to have a purpose, like anything else. You drinking that Fanta right now had a purpose. That's, you saying I like that Fanta, I want to drink it right now. I can't retrospectively say, what did you mean by that artistic expression you just did, And, you could be like, oh, yeah, actually, that might be an expression, but in the beginning, you didn't mean it to be art. So I think art has to be, bounded by some sort of shared idea of what we perceive art is. Do you think I'm wrong in that sense, or do you have any pushback against that?
No, I mean, you're completely right. You're right. You had the right energy, you had the right spirit, but I also think that when you go into an art museum and you see like a blank page with like a one single dot, and you say that took no effort, but it has a meaning to someone. The artist might have said, oh, it's just because I want money. I'm a named artist, I'm a brand artist, so they'll buy this for millions of pounds or millions of dollars. But then someone else, going into the museum could look at it and be like, that little dot is me.
In a wild sea of existence, yeah.
I'm isolated in a blank canvas. That's my world. And that's what makes it art.
It's people's opinions of the art.
Yeah, exactly. Someone can look at it and be like, bro, what? What is this?
I've done that before, to be fair. Are you kidding me?
I did not pay £30 to come and see a dot on a canvas.
That's true though, no? That's true. Then so is both art and not art at the same time? It's like Schrodinger's cat, it's both alive and not dead.
Exactly. It's both dead and alive and missing. It's all those things.
Depending on the beholder, depending on the person viewing it.
And that's what affects quality.
Okay.
Yeah. Like quality, you have performance art as well. You have, like Marina something-ivich. She's like I think she's a Baltic artist, I think. And she did this thing where she stood in the middle. She stood in the middle of a museum. She had weapons.
I think I've seen this.
She had a piece of paper with like paint.
And then she waited to see what people would do.
Exactly. She had no rules.
No rules. After a while, people started doing some crazy stuff, right?
Crazy things, like stapling her skin.
Yeah.
Putting glass on her and things like that. And that was her performance art because it was her testing the limits of humanity.
Yeah.
That was her reason. But then someone standing there in front of a table of things could just be someone's there.
Yeah. Just someone. So it's funny then. Okay, here's a question then. To go on this, I like this topic. We'll go back. There is structure to this. There is beauty to the madness. Just like there is trains to the noise. There's noise to this beauty to the madness. Okay, I feel like okay. So when we talk about subjective art, when we talk about all these things that we think it can be defined by the person who's viewing it, right? As an artist, how do you now anything you make, right, and you say, okay, like you talked before, you're creating something to just coming from internal, so you can get other people not to maybe understand, but like it's just, you're trying to say something. You're using colors, to trying to say something, right? How do you balance that with the fact that people can just say, I don't care that you use blue. That means you're super, super happy, and all your work is just like, like how do you not, fear people misconstruing your art?
I guess I do fear it as well. Like, to answer the question, I do fear it, but it's the fear that makes it worth it.
Okay.
To me, anyway. An example is when I was in college doing my art and design, I did this photography project where I was taking inspiration from the Renaissance paintings of like the goddesses and the gods, and like they used to always use nude paintings as a like expression of their deity, and they don't care about you lowly moral people. Using the human body as a sort of expression of vulnerability, and how they don't need to be vulnerable because they're gods, or like just stories basically. So I used a photography project that was obviously not nude because we were like 16, 17, but like I was using the same sort of like what would you call it,
You're basically inspired by it.
arrangement of the portraits. So yeah, my model would be like in the same sort of like poses and like the same arrangement of people in the background and like the same sort of archways and things like that. And I use it as a photography to kind of compare modern art to Renaissance art. And because I took so many photos and I put them all up because I was like, I love them all, I can't just like take away them because they're so beautiful. Someone said, oh, is this product about obsession? Because it is all the exact same model, so many photos, hundreds of photos, and they were like, this looks like a stalker type obsession project, is that what this is about? And I was like, no, but I like this. I was like, don't say that, but I like it.
Is there such a thing as misinterpretation of art then? Like
Exactly.
someone could look at it and be like, that is wrong. You're like, yes, no, I did not mean that.
Exactly. It was like they were saying that it was like a stalker thing.
Yeah, and you're like, no.
I for that entire semester I was pinned as having a crush on this person because they were like, oh, why else would you use this model so much? Like, you obviously love her. You know?
Poor poets, man. I feel bad for poets. Like centuries later, they're like, oh yeah, he loved her so much. It's like, no, I just talked about a flower. I just like flowers.
Like, is there something called a muse? Like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, here's another question, and to kind of like bring it back to like like the main topic we were talking about before about toxic productivity. I wanted to talk about like how comparison stifles creativity. How, I mean, with the rise of social media right now, or with just the rise of just how we're all connected, how do you struggle? Because I struggled this too. Before I ask the question, I want to just talk about my experience a little bit. As the train goes back again and again and again, it feels like the same train just going back and forth, but it's fine. It's fine.
They will listen.
How in terms of, because I feel like there's more and more creators being made day by day, right? And like we said, like now art is subjective, so anyone can just say that what I'm creating is art. Words can be art, dots on the screen can be art, like AI is making art now, which again that brings up the whole question of creativity is supposed to be a human concept about how we're kind of like talking about our experience in our human experience, but now it's been hijacked by electronics. So like, is what we've done art, or has it just been something just like can be made like it's a maths, something that can be just like A's and ones and zeros, and then boom, you can like basically the question I'm asking without getting too sidetracked by AI. How do we balance? Like, how do we be stable in our creativity when there's so much things you can compare yourself to, especially on social media? You look on social media, everyone's creating, everyone's doing all these things, how do you not fall into the trap of being so, like, again, toxically productive because you want to just keep up with what everyone else is doing, especially when you can see all of that,
I think it's sort of, it should be inspiring. I don't know about other people, but looking online to see all these different communities creating different things based on their own, like, there's communities of artists out there who all create different things, and posting your own things is sort of like you're adding to the database. You're adding to the collective. You're part of something, like you're also an artist. You can go to these artist conventions and meet other people like yourself. That's the positive side. Like you're adding to something that might still be
something bigger than you.
Yeah. And if you're creating books, or you're doing like a poetry, or you're doing something like this, and it will still be around after you die, because it's a physical thing. You've created it. And the internet might be alive whilst we die, and your podcast might be still on YouTube when you die. It's still a part of yourself.
I'm still uploading weekly.
Still uploading.
When I'm dead. I get my clone to start uploading weekly, talking about interesting topics.
Exactly.
Okay. So how do you feel social media and how it's going to affect creatives in the future?
Social media is hard to say, because there are both positive bits and negative bits. Obviously, everyone knows that. The negatives are always going to be comparing yourself to them, you know, they seem so like on it all the time, but then they could just be doing that thing where they bulk create and then spread out the posts, you know, which makes it look like they're always doing something. But then, you know, at the time that you're seeing the post, they could be doing something kind of like something else completely.
Yeah, chilling, not doing anything.
Exactly. Sipping their coffee or like sleeping in bed, you know, you have no idea. But then obviously the positive side is being part of it, putting yourself out there, stopping yourself from becoming a hermit, which is like a big thing for creatives, because you'll be so tempted always to just stay in your room and just create things, but then never put it out. But then I feel like if you're creating something, you have the obligation to share it, because it's like, I don't know, it's
not yours anymore.
It's out there, you know, like you have to share it with someone because someone else may find it beneficial, you know. How
did you, just speak just on that topic, how did you go from not wanting to share it to now understanding you have to share it, and because it's beneficial for other people?
I would say that being self-aware about the fact that the world is bigger than your own ego. Like, when you have low self-esteem, there are other things that are more important than that. You know, when you feel bad about yourself, you're kind of saying, oh, I'm this, you know, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. But then someone else might think, oh, but I love your stuff.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
You know, like, I love your, like, I want to see more. So having that obligation is like, if you want to do this kind of thing, like creating and things, you have to kind of find a way to get to a point where you can say, yeah, I feel bad about myself today, but there's going to be a point in the future where I can start creating again, because it's like, you know, I love what I do, you know. If you love what you do, then you're going to create more of it. If you don't love what you do, then why are you doing it, you know?
Do you ever fall out of love with your stuff that you create?
I don't know. I guess I've always had this kind of like urge to create things, be a part of stuff. But my problem is I can't stick to one thing. Like, I still want to go to auditions for movies and stuff. I still want to be an author. I still want to have an art gallery with all my paintings and stuff. I don't know. I think I just have, you know, too many things to I have too many things to do to stop me from doing them. You know, because like if I stop painting 1 year, the next year I'll be on something else creative, and then at some point I'll be back to painting again. You know, it's just like a cycle. So I'm always doing something creative. It just might not always be the same medium.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just to touch on that quickly, I completely agree, because I feel like, especially when you mention like you have different, I feel like they're just different outputs. You know, what I've learned about myself is that I'm not such a simple to understand being, even to myself. You know, like I thought, oh yeah, it's fine, you're just person who does this one thing, and it's like, no, as you get older and older and older, you begin to realize that like there are so many different aspects of yourself that if you allow yourself to, say, try poetry, like for example for me, right, when I started writing poetry, is when I realized I have a voice in my head, a poetic voice in my head that can look at things deeper than on the surface, right? And then literally through that experience, I started also seeing how I can maybe have conversations with other people. So it wasn't just internal. It was like, now I want to see that in other people. I want to see how other people deal with that same process that I go through, you know. And like even writing was the same thing. Can I put these stories in my head, or coming up thinking about these ideas and thinking them through? It gave me a chance to be able to see worlds, you know. And I think like I would say the reason why because I'm the same, I can't stick to one thing, is because there's different versions of you that want to create. The version of you that wants to create today is not going to go through that same output as painting. You know, maybe it's painting, but sometimes you actually want to put pen to paper and actually say some shit, because you know, maybe sometimes you actually want to express it in a different way. You know, there's different areas of your life and different ways where you can express stuff.
Yeah, some things words can't be put into, like your feelings can't be put into words sometimes, and sometimes they can't be put into paintings. It's just, it depends on what you're trying to express. You know, like if you're making a movie and you have actors, like what you're trying to express is a different human being's life, who you have to portray. You have to put them on the surface. You have to feel what the other character is feeling, even though it's not you. when you're writing a book, you have to live multiple characters' lives in like 800 pages maybe. Like, you know, I think there was a saying that authors and readers and writers alike all live thousands of lives throughout their own.
Exactly.
Because they are learning all these different things about someone's life, and they're probably just fictional, you know. It might not be a biopic. It will just be like a fictional character.
Yeah.
You know their entire life, and that'll be the exact same thing for every single character that you know about from every single book and every single movie.
Exactly.
So it's just, yeah. I mean, you have different mediums for different feelings.
And I had a question on just, again, moving down the river of creativity. Do you ever feel burnt out by the stuff that you create? Do you ever feel like you reach a stage where you've reached a stage where like you feel like anything you create isn't real to you? You know, like whenever that's my measurement for, is this stuff good to go out? It's like, well, if I read it when I'm not in that creative space, do I feel connected to it? Or am I looking at someone else's work, you know? And like, if I read and I go, even though I wrote it, it's like, oh, that's some good shit. Like, that's something that I could take and apply to my own life, even though it is my own life. You know, it's like, there's something there, you know? And I think when I'm not feeling like that is when oftentimes I feel burnt out. I feel like I've been creating so much, or I've been kind of pressuring myself to create so much, and bringing it back to toxic positivity. But toxic, is there even such a thing as toxic positivity? I don't know. Someone find that out for me.
There is.
There might be. Okay, that's what I'm thinking about. That's the next topic for next time. Bringing back toxic productivity, like, yeah, do you feel like sometimes you get burnt out from just working? You know, life burns out too, but like also creative burnout too. Do you feel that?
I do feel like I do have creative burnout, which does actually affect my day-to-day life as well, because I don't know if this is a thing, but like, you know, when you've been dealing with your day-to-day life, in like a gap between your creativity spurts, creative spurts, you feel kind of brain dead in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where it's like you've completely shut off that part of your brain because you have to focus on something that's like work or like chores, and it's like you feel so brain dead. And then when you get to a point where you're doing the creativity stuff, it's like you haven't got the energy for it anymore because you spent so long shutting it off, so that you can like prosper in today's society.
Exactly. Be a worker, but yeah.
Like not all, like I said earlier,
Yeah.
not all artists can have the, you know, privilege to be paid for their artwork. So you can't, like, it has to be a hobby for us. It has to be sort of like you know, a pastime.
Yeah.
So when you're doing your actual work, like, you know, that lets you eat and have a shelter over your head, you know, you kind of have to force yourself to shut it off. If you're like me, that is, where you have to like focus on something 100%, you know, otherwise you won't be able to do your job well. But then it's the opposite way around as well, where if you're in a creative spurt, you can't do anything else.
Absolutely.
Like, there are times when I'm like completely useless on the floor at my work because all I'm thinking about is my book.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
You
I
know?
relate to that. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you get to the point where you're flip-flopping between being useless at that and being useless at that, and then having 100% on this thing, that you just end up like shutting down, you know, asking for a holiday because you just can't do anything anymore. You end up just, you know.
Are there things you do to avoid that? Are there like things you put in place? Like, so you mentioned like going on holiday. Is there something else you do to kind of like refocus your creative juices or creative spirits, I guess?
It would be my lists. Like my lists and schedules and things like that keeps me on top of things. Having to build my life around my work rota. So for example, if I have my 6-hour shift at work, I'll use that as like a foundation for all my schedule that day, you know. So like, if I know that I have to be mentally prepared for work, I won't do anything creative beforehand, but I will do it after work.
So you try not to mix the two. You're trying to keep it separate.
Yeah, because I know for a fact that I'm not the kind of person who can do both. I either have to do one or the other. Otherwise, I become like Daisy and like, you know, head in the clouds, which I have been described as before. So I've learned from my mistakes. But it's sort of like, you know, I feel like I do have to separate myself into two wolves, like you said. I have two wolves inside of me. I have one where I want to be good at my work, I want to be, you know, driven. I want to, you know, have promotions. I want to do all these kind of things. But I also have my other side, my other wolf, like you said. You know, that's like wanting to cozy up, draw, do my poetry, and like work on my book. And it's just kind of like, if you try to focus on both at the same time, it becomes too much, because it's two separate lives. You're trying to live two lifetimes at the same time, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah, no.
So yeah.
Just to touch on that too, like I think my experience, even though I think I agree, there is definitely two sides of it. I think the positive or the aspirational thing is for me to merge them, because I think they have to feed on from each other, because in the end there is still just one version of us. Even though I wish there was two versions of me, that'd be so much easier. But no, there still was one version of us, and they kind of feed into each other, especially when it comes to creative and also acting in this kind of work environment that we have. You know, it's like if I'm able to take the experiences that I go through in real life, you know, as Bruce Wayne, and then come back in Batman form. When I'm Batman, and I can understand that I can use some of the tools that I gained from Bruce Wayne. You know, so I can take that idea of like, okay, maybe I went through this experience, and you know, or made me think about this, and like oftentimes the things I write about, it's weird because I don't think about them consciously. I think maybe unconsciously as I live life, I used to be thinking about these things, and then when it comes down to create, it kind of surfaces on. And then do you relate to that?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I was going to say, like, that's exactly how it is. Consciously, you can't do it. Consciously, you can't be thinking about both things at the same time. But when you do live both lives, you have skills from both. So, for example, when you're doing your creative thing, because I'm a waitress, so if I'm doing my creative thing, I'll use my waitressing skills, where I'll be mentally listing all my things, memorizing all these different, you know, names and places, and trying to solve issues like plot holes and things like that. I'll be able to solve those issues very quickly, like multitasking. But while I'm at work, and I can't think about creativity stuff, but when I'm at work, I have my skills of solving issues creatively. You know, things like when people are stressed out at work and they can't think, I'll swoop in to try to like solve the issues, because I'll have the creative solving problems, creative problem solving skills.
We're two writers, by the way. Trust me, we know how to use language.
Yes, and English is something we're very good at, obviously.
Take our word for it. But no, yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Okay, here's a just to, sorry, this is my fault. I blame me. Just to close it out, then. Oh my God, it's pitch black. How do we balance? Okay, going forward, then let's start look at like what comes out of this, right? How do we think going forward you're going to balance that toxic productivity version of you, and balance those two wolves that you have inside of you, to make sure that you can produce the very best piece of creative content that you can?
I would say is knowing your limits is the main thing. If you're not aware of your limits, like, you're going to be burned out all the time. You have to be realistic about it, because you can't be comparing yourself is the major thing, because if you're comparing yourself to other people, it's like a recipe for disaster.
Comparison is a thief of joy.
Exactly, like that's the thing. And if you're, because everyone is individual, right? If you have your individual experiences, you have your own capacity, and you're doing the same thing as someone else, and you could just be dead the next day while they're still on their 2 feet. And then you'll just be like, oh, I'm so terrible, like they can do this but I can't. And it's like, dude, that's not like, it's just not your speed. You have to just slow down, take a breath, think to yourself, what can I do right now that's realistic? I can breathe? Yes. I can blink? Yes.
Start with very basics. Yeah,
exactly. Start from the basics, because it's like, if you start trying to, like, you know, make things all big in your head, and like saying, oh, you know, I have to do all these things at the same time, I have to do these very, very kind of intricate things that need a lot of attention, start from scratch, because you can't do all that by yourself. 100%. You know, and if it's something you can ask for help for, do it, because, you know, if it's like chores, or it's like, you know, you're at work and you have, you know, a lot of things on your plate, ask a colleague for help so that you can, you know, balance it out, and then you can help them out another day. You know, you can reciprocate. You don't have to be so proud of yourself to the point where you're not accepting anyone's help.
Exactly.
And then that also comes into the fact that when you have that in check, you can then start to put things in the spaces where you are, we're filling up to your capacity. So like you're training yourself to have bigger capacity, but in a more healthy and like slow way, where it's like before you weren't able to do like 10 things on the list, but you were able to do like 5, right? But then maybe next month you do 6, go on and go on and go on.
Steady progression, yeah, 100%.
And the healthier thing to do, rather than compare yourself to your ideal self, is to compare yourself to your past self. You can say to yourself, oh, I've moved so far since last time. Could I have done this 10 years ago? No, you couldn't have done that, because you've grown so much since then. Could you have created this book when you were like 15? No, you couldn't have, because you're doing so much at that time, and you are pushing yourself to the point where you're always sleeping because you're so tired. But now you can do all these things because you've healthily pushed your capacity. I
agree 100%. And I think like just a different perspective also. I know that you mentioned about compare yourself to your past self, not your ideal self. I think for me it's almost the opposite, just because of how I operate. I think it depends, like you said, everyone's individual, so you have to really know yourself to know what motivates you. To me, I think when I compare myself to my past self, I tend to be complacent. I tend to fall into the complacent. Oh, I'm okay. I'm better than that guy. Like, I'm chill. Like, everything's okay. I can relax. Like I think the talents that I have, not to be arrogant, not to be like, but like the things I can do, the things I'm able to do, I have to push myself to realize those things. Like if I never push myself to perform, I'd never realize, okay, now I can actually perform poetry. Like I want to do that. That's something my ideal self would be able to do. My past I wouldn't even think about. So it's about knowing which version of yourself do you, like you said, it's like there is toxic productivity, but there's also productivity which helps you move forward, and understanding the difference between those two. For me, comparing myself to my ideal self raises the standards I have for myself. But I'm actually very good at the conversation I have with myself. So it's not like, oh, you're a terrible person because you didn't live up to that. It's almost like, well, you can do better. Like, I know you can do better. I've seen you do better. And it's like, okay, cool, actually, like, you're right, I can. And then I can, move forward to that. But even with that, there's an asterisk that after you also be aware that, sometimes there is burnout because I am not there yet. I'm trying to be there. And when I make mistakes, I should be like, okay, cool, you made a mistake, it's fine. Let's just start over again. Let's do it again. Not having that negative voice in your head, which is always like chastising you and pushing you down and kind of poking yourself, bringing self-doubt. I think that's never a good thing. I think to kind of close it out, I know you had a question that you wrote before we started that kind of relates to this. So I think while I just kind of try to overview summarize what we talked about, if you could get that question, I think that'll be good, and we can kind of close this out. I think one of the things I want to talk about is what I learned from this discussion, because I think it's something I truly needed. There is an aspect of we do in our generation focus too much on production. We think like we become almost like, I think it's definitely an aspect of the like how our industrial what's it called, the industrial wave, what is the industrial, whatever it is, where we go clock in, clock out, we've a factory work kind of mentality where everything's units of production. So we think about producing stuff as units of production. Even I think about the same thing. Every podcast I make, it's like, okay, now boom, numbers, okay, this 22, 23. It's like, no, like in the end, I've realized that it's about each singular one, and then you don't think about the units, and then that's where you can gain the most advantage from it. So like when we talk about toxic productivity, we got there in the end. Toxic productivity, I think, is definitely about like how can you focus not on the wider what you're not doing, but on the next thing you can do. Like you said, bring it down to the basics. What's the next thing you can do? And I think that's something I've definitely learned over the couple of years that I've grown. It's like, okay, don't focus on the massive amount of work that you have to do, almost like your fucking factory machine that you've got a quarter to meet. It's like, no, enjoy today, enjoy that one thing you're doing, focus on that, because if you die tomorrow, that's all you have is your last moment of like, all the things that you've been able to create up until now, so focus on those little moments and just build up on that. Then you can look back at some point and be like, oh my god, I've done all these things by just focusing on the next step, and I think that's so important too. So if I know you had a question, if you could go off that would be good.
Yeah, of course.
You remember it? I thought you needed to. You just have it on your dome. Okay.
Okay. Well, I think I'll start with my question, and that was productivity paralysis. How does it affect you? When does it affect you? I'll give you an example of when, because obviously we've spoken about how to avoid burnout and how burnout happens. But when you're in burnout, when you're in the period of burnout, how does your cognitive process stop you from doing things like simple things, like doing the dishes, or like thinking about the future, or finding things to inspire yourself? Because it can be so like similar to things like depression and stuff, because you're kind of finding excuses not to do things, or you just can't picture yourself. You can't picture the whole day, let alone the future. You just can't, like, it's too much. So you just end up like doing basic minimal things, like just sitting on the couch, breathing, drinking Red Bull, and you just can't picture yourself doing anything else that day, because it's just, your cognitive is so fried. So the main question is, how does your cognitive process, how is it during that period of burnout, and would you say that productivity paralysis, does it relate to you?
I mean, yes. The short answer is yes. The longer it says, I think whenever I feel burnout, I think I've talked about this before, it's almost because I take on so much. I take on so much things that I want to do, and I feel like I can achieve them, but I don't look after myself properly. Like before, so like when I was creating and I wasn't doing a podcast and I was just writing, I would have so much time on my hands. I'll be able to go to the park and just walk around in the park and spend time with nature, and just sit by a water stream reading a book. That's great for you, and that made me the person I am. But now that I'm picking up all these things, there's no time for me. There's no time for me to really figure. Like I said before, I've kind of was not holding myself up, but I've all my time is given to other things. Mostly none of it is given to self-reflection and introspection, and even though I do it through the poetry, that's almost like another task. It's never like I'm not doing anything today, I can just hang out and just chill. Definitely affects me, where I feel like I can't rest. I feel like if I get a rest in, I feel aggy, and I know that's my talking to myself, which is not a good conversation to have about myself. Like when I'm on holiday, I feel like, okay, what we're gonna do? Record a podcast? Okay, let's have some. I'm always in that mode of creating, and that's not good, because sometimes it gets to the point where it's like an overload. Where some days I'll just be like, okay, now I'm in bed. I'll wake up way later than before. I'll just be in bed, and I'm like, and then I feel terrible about being in bed. I feel like, what am I doing? I should get out and do stuff. And I'm like, well, it's only been 2-3 hours I've been in bed, but it felt like I've wasted the whole day, and that compounds, and it feels like now I have to go outside. It's almost like the way it shows up for me cognitively is making it feel like I have to do this, and it's not like this is just my life and I'm living life, and it is what it is. But it's like, oh, I have to do this because I have to try find time to rest, and I can almost never find it. Even when I am resting, there's always that next thing I gotta do. There's always thinking about, okay, I gotta do something else. And definitely there is a productivity paralysis in that too, because it means I don't create anything. Sometimes I'll go weeks without writing something, or maybe I'll have an idea to write something, but because I'm so stuck in that mentality, or I'm paralyzed mentally in terms of creatively expressing, I don't do that, because I have to be in a certain type of mind state to do that. So I think definitely it affects my creativity, because sometimes I'm not in a mind state to create, because the way I create is very personal, it's very from a place of truth, it's poetic. I can't just sit there and just tap it out. I need to really be in that mental space, and sometimes I can't get to that mental space because of my own doing, but it's something I'm working on. It's something I'm trying to do, sometimes step away from it. What really helps me is spending time with my family. Spending time with family brings me back to the version I was before I started all this, so it's like, my nieces don't care about podcasts and creativity. They're just like, no, you pick me up on your back, let's play hide and seek, let's play Among Us. It's like the little stuff, stuff that they care about, and that brings me back down to earth, and it's like, okay, cool, my mind is not thinking about the next thing, because I'm just in that moment, I'm present in that moment. It's weird, isn't it? It's weird, this creative journey that we're on. I feel like we're getting better, but also we're learning stuff that we're doing wrong, because do you ever think it's a process where we're going to figure it out in the end?
yeah, I mean, that's what our parents always tell us, right? You don't know what you're doing until it just clicks at some point in your life, or you feel like you're not doing, I'm kind of even trying to, speaking noises, words, punctuation.
On that note.
Okay, my point is, I think I've been told by people older than me who say things like, I still don't know what I'm doing, but then on the outside it looks like they do.
100%.
So I think it's always just a matter of what you're actually doing versus your own kind of what you feel like you should be doing. So obviously when you're like in your 40s, you could be doing something that's amazing, but you'll still be thinking to yourself, I could be doing more.
Yeah.
But then to someone our age, it could be like, you're doing so much.
You're doing so much, 100%.
Like you're doing everything you should be able to do. That's amazing. But so I feel like for some people, it may never be the case that you do feel like genuinely feel like you're doing enough. But as long as you're doing things that you're comfortable with, that's fine, because on the outside it looks like maybe you are doing what you need to be doing.
100%.
So it's just all about perspective.
100%. Thank you. And I think on that note, thank you so much for your time today. It's always great to have this conversation with you. It's always great to speak to you. This conversation is actually really needed, I think, for me. I think I was reaching a point where I'm getting into the groove of things. It's balancing between, okay, I'm being consistent now, and also I'm forgetting some of the minor details, because you do overlook the minor details, which is like, now I gotta make sure I go back out into that park and just relax some days, find out that there isn't always just about production. It isn't always just about making stuff. It's sometimes you still gotta live life in between this, and life is about balance. Finding that balance is what's so important. And so to future Jeff, find the balance, and to everyone else, find the balance today. And thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and peace until the next time.